Yeah, mate, I am just so mentally, physically, emotionally fucked.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just at this point where genuinely you've picked that up.
I'm seeing that. I can validate that.
I'm gathering. I just even things like genuinely like forgetting to eat. So of course I'm then, you're like, oh, let's jump on this lava. And my instinct is like, oh God, I feel terrible. I'm exhausted. I can't do anything. And then I'm like, you just haven't eaten anything. Like
Right.
just that it's just
I have
basic fucking
I have a
functioning.
theory that some of it is like disorganized-ish. Like so disorganized attachment-ish. Or
Yeah.
but not even just in relation to like it might be me or it might be commitment. It's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like that deactivate, and now
Yeah.
that I'm free,
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
like I want to if it's a choice. But
Yeah. And it's always a choice. That's the thing.
Or you're then activating, and then I'm like, are you just appeasing me?
Yeah. Yeah, it is strange.
So I do wonder.
I definitely panic
eating.
whenever there's like a suggested anything from anyone at any time. Panic.
Yeah.
And what I can't tell is it could be attachment stuff. It could also just be because my capacity to just executive function is fucked. I panic about like, am I don't know what I've got on. I don't know. Can I do this? Did I say yes to something else? Am I, Like I just can't. So my instinct is like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then 99% of the time I quite quickly work my way around to, oh yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
It's just, so I usually don't give my first response ever because it's usually panic. And then it very quickly, 99% of the time works its way around to, oh yeah, that works fine.
Yeah.
And then occasionally
I think
like
you appease first. I think you panic, appease, and then
reach whether I'm actually up for it or not.
Yeah.
I know. So I would love to know more in real time. Am I up for it?
No.
That would be nice. Like to be able to communicate closer to when I'm asked about something that isn't coming from panic or appeasement, but it's actually genuinely where I sit.
2 days for me.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
That's the 2-day thing.
Fascinating. Yeah. Good to know.
I'll be switching for 2 days. I won't know whether I wanted to be here for 2 days.
Good to know. Okay.
But at least then I backtrack it 2 days, and then I know what the trigger was, so all I'm doing is working off previous tracking methods.
Yeah. Yes. Interesting.
I'm not very present. I'm present with my feelings, but not with the situation.
Yeah. Or like
I've
booking,
got 2 days ago feelings. Yeah.
Yes, I know. And I think it's tricky. I think because I've done a lot of work on the not dissociating, I'm now much more aware of what I actually feel in the moment. But now I've discovered that actually what I feel in 99% of my life is just terror at all times. So now it's like, okay, good to know, but you can't live your life from that. So now what? Like that, now it's the next step of like, what do you do when your baseline is terror?
Yeah. I think there is also so I would go, this is what I would do if I were you. Not that, I might be all wrong. No. But if it was me, I'd be going back to when you said, sounds good, we need to come up with something for Patreon. And then my response, and then what was the feeling behind what you're like, get more specific about the terror. It's like feeling trapped. Was it a past trigger? Like something in my response made you freak out.
Yeah.
And then actually something about that little part of the conversation made you go one way, then the other. And you might still be in it. I don't know. But like, it's just it's like that the clue might be there, but it might have or it's like, because you were just sort of talking chill about Patreon then, and then you weren't.
Yeah. And it's interesting because all like your response was, I agree completely with. I just went, oh no, we need to come up with something for Patreon. Like I then just got really fixed on because I was like,
to be fair, that was when I should have. That was a voice clip conversation. that was an info
conversation?
dump over text as well, which I was said I wouldn't
Interesting.
do.
Yeah, but then
like I don't think my tone would have matched reading it to how I felt.
ah,
I was just like, oh, I meant to say this once anyway.
yes,
This is why I said take a still every time you do something. Take one still, because you can't always use the. If we use like a freeze thing, then we might not be able to use that clip
in the actual
document.
Whereas if we have a still and then even some audio or different parts of audio, that we can use
something repeat it. Just repeat the same thing. That kind of stuff. Like it's annoying. I think this is why a lot of like when you're watching teasers for movies and stuff, you're like, well, they didn't even put that in there. But I think it's just like they were just bypassing some copyright issues.
Yeah.
But like in porn, it's a massive big deal. Like you can't publish any, like no little part of anything can then go to a company if it went anywhere else. So
wow, isn't that amazing?
And with writing, like if you put up, like you can't post a poem and then submit any part of it to like a company or a publishing platform. So it's annoying.
Yeah, very annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you're having to like double and triple create for the one project, basically.
For the traction before you sell it.
Yeah.
Oof, but I think the visuals that you got is the stuff we want to hype. Like we don't want to use that in the hype. We want to delay gratification.
Yes. I like it. Yeah, so this is the thing. Everything you wrote, not a problem. And I agree completely with, but it's just funny how then I'm like, oh God, how are we going to do this? We need something for Patreon. Right. And then recording this Arvo. Oh, I'm also hungry, haven't eaten. Just cannot like
but I think
process.
That stuff is either, I think one of those might have been triggered a feeling that is a trigger, I think. But all of that can be true. Because it's like hard to know whether the thing is the thing or is there like or is there rationalization?
Yeah. Or just the association with the thing, you know?
Yeah.
That for whatever reason. Yeah. Honestly.
But I think it's something to do with me because I think I'm the common denominator. I think I'm triggering you somehow. Because I think this is.
I'm telling you, this is my life with I'm telling you, just don't get to see me around other people. Okay. This is me constantly constantly.
It doesn't bother me. This is me. With, no, this is me with people. Anyway, I won't get into it. Some people.
No, well, certainly in my experience, not at all. Probably you and Mum are the least triggering people in my life because I can communicate with you, and I can then process it through and go, don't know what's going on here, or this is what I need.
You push. I think it's like a flight response because something is it doesn't, and then we're like, okay, she said no.
Yeah, as in it's fine.
Like,
and then I'm like, oh yeah, it is fine. And actually I didn't even mean to say no. I'm quite up for it.
So you're safe.
Yeah. Whereas others for me, this is a very
I test the no. That's all.
Yeah. Whereas this is like for everything else in my life, it's not actually even safe enough to react. So
I think that's why you do it with
I'm just in complete lockdown. So it's actually not you or Mum, for example, that are triggers so much as it's actually there's freedom to actually respond how I'm feeling.
Stuff. It doesn't mean you have disorganized attachment.
No, but it is definitely.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're actually safe enough that I could let out a little bit of what I'm feeling and it's not a huge drama. Like it doesn't.
It's actually good because I feel like I have done this to exes quite a bit. The same thing. So
kind of process.
Oh, yes.
You're like, oh, I know that.
It's like,
it's familiar.
I deserve it.
Yeah. Oh, look, I also know that at the moment in particular, my reactivity is through the fucking roof because I am just clinging on for hospital and it's just been prolonged and like rescheduled. Yeah. And I'm just at the end of myself.
It's a shame you can't do a month in hospital.
Well, I actually probably
like 2
will.
Weeks, I reckon you're going to have, this is my prediction, is like you're going to have a shit time either just before hospital or just after. I'm not getting any feedback. It's so weird. Try and keep hitting stuff. Before or after, I think you're going to have heaps of a bad time or in hospital. But I feel like if you had a month Or like
Well,
2
yeah, I
weeks?
do. So basically, Bianca said minimum 2 weeks.
Oh, okay,
We
cool.
can go up to 4 before we need a second opinion, and even then we can extend if we need to. So she's up for whatever, really.
Cool.
Which
Can
is
I
good.
be the second opinion? Okay.
I guess. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. I just need to get there. I just need to get there.
Okay.
Into a contained environment where there are no other unpredictable
People.
it's just more the
There will
unpredictable.
be unpredictable.
Well, there will be.
Yeah. There won't be unpredictable expectations. Your expectation is to like
and
be there.
the unpredictable people in there are nothing to me. So it's not like, do you know what I mean? It's not like it doesn't impact in the way that unpredictability from people that are actually in my life and that I care about.
I think
have an impact.
I think the obligation is part of the terror.
Absolutely.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's be real, like my whole life, I've not been allowed to say no.
No.
Like that's a core.
You've been a carer your whole life as well.
Yeah.
Like to some capacity. You grew up pretty fast and had like
care responsibilities.
People in your life to look out for.
Yeah. From very young.
And I don't think you would even realize like I remember just sort of like relying on you in social situations at
it's so interesting. Catherine says the same. And like she says
that?
Catherine says the same.
Yeah,
and she has this picture of me as good at social things. And I'm like, you have no idea. Like I might have looked like that, but I was like not coping.
No.
I just looked like I was.
But the fact that we were relying on you is like, and that we think of it that way. Yeah, it's sort of a.
Yeah.
There was pressure.
Yeah, definitely.
Or you, when you were at least aware of people like looking out for, or people not coping or just buffering. I don't think you would have thought of it in those terms. Like, no. Like 14, but like.
Yeah, very true. And I think
you would have known if someone's uncomfortable. You would have absorbed
100%. Yeah. And that's why now I'm like, see, but because I was dissociating all that time though, so I wouldn't have really realized it was happening. Now, because my dissociation is a lot less, I notice how reactive my body is to any tension in environment. Like my body feels like it's going to die if there's any tension. And it's not what's the word? Commensurate with the situation, right? So if it's like a family dinner and it's a bit awkward because someone said something awkward, I feel like I'm going to die. Like it's unbearable. And it doesn't actually match up with what the situation is. So it's very clearly a trigger.
And then you would get yours later.
Yes. Yeah. It is rough. It is rough.
Yeah.
And it's not possible to live life entirely tension free because life is a shit show. So there's gonna have to come. I've come from not feeling anything to now feeling everything, and then it now needs to work to another place of like not of feeling, but being able to place those feelings in some kind of order and live around them.
Their thing.
Yeah. Jesus. Anyway, that's my.
Well, I'm noticing it's interesting that sorry.
That's all right.
Siren. That I just sort of say what I think to you. Because even though you're freaking out, I feel like, oh, that's cool. I'm not.
Yeah.
Freaking out on your behalf. Like I'm still holding my ground. So that's very you specific. Like usually I'm like having to psych myself up for it.
All right. But that's good.
Sometimes I'll usually do it now, but not so quickly.
Yeah.
Firmly. Whereas now I'm like, that's her thing. So that's nice.
Yes. That's so good. And this is the thing, it co-creates itself. Because you do that, I feel safe to have my feeling and know that you're not internalizing that.
True.
So it actually is this beautiful cycle, for once, a positive cycle of like, you have yours and I have mine. And we actually are safe enough knowing that we have each other, like our own, that we can then communicate our own. And it's not, we know it's not a burden on the other, or like that we're having to care for the other. Yeah, it's great. No. Like, even when it's shit, it's
or
great.
They'll say,
they'll,
if it is.
Yeah. Or they'll loop back around, you know, when Jen figures out what she actually needs, she'll loop back around and let me know. And that's fine. When she's had something to eat and she's calmed down, she will.
Okay. This is mildly relevant. Have you decided whether to take your vibrator to the psych ward?
So this is my big question. I want to put it out there to our patrons. I want to know, and I want to put this out. Let's put this bit on Insta, because I want to know what people think.
I think this is a civvy question.
Is it?
I just can't. Like, I don't know. I don't speak on behalf of sex workers, all that shit.
Sure.
But
it's a ridiculous question from a sex worker perspective.
If you want to masturbate with your vibrator, you should take it. Like, it's not. I mean,
it's a non-issue. I think what I was
realizing
over
this stuff like two months into like full service, and or like toy shows or whatever you do. You're like people see my toys.
And actually, we should just all be operating off the fact that we all masturbate. So it's a non-issue if you find someone's toy in their bag when they go to hospital. I think that's the only. It'd just be the same as a toothbrush or a hairbrush, or it's just like their shit.
Or like, it's just their shit. It's not. Or like a blanket, like that's because I think it's not really a hygiene item. It's a comfort thing.
It's a comfort thing. Yeah, same as them taking books to read.
It makes them feel better, whatever.
Yeah. It's an activity they're going to use in hospital, just like reading or watching something or whatever else. I agree. That's I think my position on it. If someone else has asked me, that's my position on it. The one thing that has just flagged in my brain is what I'm curious about is the hospital's position on it. Because I do know that they have a list of things you can't bring because it is a psychiatric facility. So we're obviously, like, I was going to take a skipping rope because I'm getting into skipping as some form of exercise. But then, of course, that's a suicide risk. So that one's on the no list. So they do actually have a no list for valid reasons. Okay. And what I was curious about.
I'm going to we'll put this up on Instagram, and I will set up a poll on mine.
Yes. I mean, I think you should be able to take your vibrator to a psych ward. I think that should be fine. What I'm curious about is if it's like some kind of rehab settings where some places do view sex and sex addiction, and they have complicated
like history.
Yes.
The history of hysterica and stuff like that.
Exactly. I'm curious whether they actually have a position on like not bringing sexual or sexualized materials in, which it shouldn't be viewed as. Like, it's a personal item. It's not like I'm going to be sharing it.
So you can't have, this is something that Ali told me actually when I first met her, is that you can't have toys in prison. So then if someone has one, then it's shared often, which is sometimes a bit of a one of the
a health risk, but but understandable because
because and then it's like hard to clean it because you might be spotted. So
exactly,
so I guess psych ward kind of operates a bit like prison.
That's just what I'm wondering about is like, so apparently I'm getting a call on Monday or Tuesday to kind of give me all the info on what to bring and what not to bring. So
I'll 2 days before you'll already be in Adelaide.
I'll already be in Adelaide. So I'm going to have to leave my vibrator at my sister's house. If I'm not allowed to take it. She won't get. But it's fine. But it's just interesting, I think. I think it speaks to this biggest social issue we have about sex, obviously. And kind of this idea of like masturbation as that's actually for a lot of people, for most people, a very healthy self-soothing tool you actually would want people to be doing when they're distressed in a psychiatric facility.
I just can't relate with this conversation because if I've done a out call.
Yeah.
And I haven't done another booking at home or I've got things on in between, then the toy is staying in my bag.
Yeah.
Unless it needs washing specifically, but like, I'll just be walking around with it for 2 days.
Sure. Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And kind of, I have had my bag checked at the chemist. I'm like,
it's there. It's not really.
Yeah. I mean,
it's their problem if they're checking your bag and they're bothered by it. It's not a you issue.
Yeah, I worry more about sexual harassment in that.
Yeah.
But generally it's just going to make them uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that's a them issue. Like, that's, I think that's, it is. Unfortunately, I do think we're still very puritanical as a broader society.
Puritanical, but also this is what makes things exciting too. So I don't really think that, I think that sex is often caused, or like our fantasies and our interests are kind of caused by wanting some sort of outlet which requires restriction elsewhere. So I don't think it's I think that this is a part of the issue of like sex positivity is that the sexual interest is often something that's taboo.
Yes.
And so it just shifts society into like sexualizing something else. So
it's
kind of like to me it's a bit of like a non I don't know. I question the effectiveness of the overall goal of like sex positivity.
Sex positivity.
It just creates
I think
we sexualize things that are shamed often.
Yes.
So there's always going to be something shamed. I think that's the issue.
Yeah. And I find with sex positivity, it feels very similar to body positivity in its limitations. So feeling positive, yay, about bodies or yay about sex, it totally disregards the very real and deeply entrenched cultural and systemic issues relating to bigger bodies and relating to sex and sexual liberation. I'm interested in fat liberation. I'm interested in like some major liberation around gender and how it interacts with sexuality and sensuality and sexual pleasure. So just kind of going like, yay, sex is fine.
I also
this
might be more controversial. I don't think that enthusiastic consent should be the goal.
Ooh,
because
say more.
When I've been like, fuck yes, I can't even say no, like this is amazing, whatever.
Right.
Like when it's been like unreal, it hasn't or it's like incredible. Like when the enthusiasm has been at its highest, it's been a very unhealthy dynamic.
Right. Interesting.
And it's like meant it's meant that I've been restricted by that person elsewhere, and then
interesting
desire to come back. So there's that. Also, work sex isn't like that, but I consent.
Yes.
I do not choose the person, but I consent those terms, and it's good.
Yeah,
it's good with me. It's worth it. That's kind of, and to be honest, I find that sex the most healthy.
Yes.
Yeah. Why not? Also, it takes out the option of taking turns and the value in that. If you're doing something for someone, you should be able to say, this is for you.
Yeah.
But I'm cool with it. That needs to be really clear for clear consent.
Yes.
And it's not realistic that I think that
people are going to be into everything all the time.
Enthusiastic consent is a setup for gaslighting, in my opinion. Also, it doesn't really work well for people who have disabilities or maybe tics or things like autism if they have like a different way of saying yes and no.
Yep, absolutely.
I think it's just like an absolutely absurd goal. Like if I do something for somebody, or it doesn't mean that I do that enthusiastically. It means that they should say thank you.
You choose to do that.
Get on with it.
Yeah.
You just choose. Choice is the goal.
Yeah.
And
but for that to be the goal,
it creates so many unrealistic fantasies that the other person is always into exactly what I am, and the other person might do it so that you can engage in the fantasy, and that's the place to get to. Even though I've had a bit of shame around my own like fantasies and people doing it for me, but like now I can do that. I can like sort of make sure they're cool, and then engage in the fantasy while doing it.
Yes.
And it's all
Yeah.
clear. It's good. But like that just takes a bit of maturity. But I
Yeah.
think that's the goal.
Yeah.
Enthusiastic consent is pretty fucked.
Well, I think it totally, like, firstly, what does it even mean? Like, it's yet again another kind of nebulous, like, concept that is so individual fucking anyway. But like this, so are they saying that
I like chill consent.
Hey, chill. Yeah. What about chill
consent?
What about bit bored consent? Bit bored and I'd give it a go consent. Do you know what I mean? Like,
consent?
Why not consent? Like,
or like, can we try this consent? Or can we like,
yeah.
Or like, I'm working through something. Do you mind consent?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not going to be an enthusiastic time.
Yeah. Or what about,
but
I really have to get this work done and I can't even think, are you up for it?
Also,
to get me going, consent.
Else is like that. Yeah, right. Yeah. Or if it's like, yeah, dopamine consent. Or if you're like, if somebody, I always liken it to food. If somebody says, would you like dinner? I'm starving. And then you say, yeah, I could go something. That means yes. They'd like some food.
Yes, thanks. Yes, please. Yeah.
If they're like, oh, I'm in the mood for the dessert, but not like,
yeah,
really. That means depends.
Yeah.
On the terms.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think
I do not think if someone's like, I really want to try this thing, that you have to be, me too, I'm desperate to do that. And if you're like,
and that's
if
the
you're
only
doing
time
that, then that's
either of us can explore that. Exactly. And this is, I think this is what it ends up meaning, is it will just mean that people perform enthusiasm and feel pressured to perform enthusiasm. That's all it's going to mean. It's not actually going to mean that people get to know themselves and figure out what they want, get to know their partner, figure out what they want, and continue to negotiate. It's just going to mean that people perform enthusiasm, and feel pressured to do so. That's
or feel like, not even by the person necessarily, just feel that that's the requirement for sex.
For sex, yeah.
Or that, and I think that like often in straight dynamics, often like the males often feel shame around being predatory unless they're seeing certain responses.
Right.
It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
No, responses don't happen when it's for you, but that's okay.
That's and or they happen because the person then feels they have to perform them.
Or
and that
they happen incidentally.
It just doesn't matter.
It just doesn't matter. If you're enjoying it, enjoy it.
If you're enjoying it and you've communicated and agreed on, like,
but I think that can come from like fair bit of codependence too.
But I think ultimately, until we are literate about communication about sex, like any of these kind of consent approaches are at best limited. Until we can actually understand ourselves and figure out how to communicate that and normalize really nuanced communication about sex.
Yeah, we still need to read that book.
Then the rest of it is, people will always be coerced. People will always find themselves coercing others. You know, that is the bottom line.
For people, like, they don't realize whatever you think sex is a fantasy.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And when you're hitting that, it's like an absolute fluke, or the other person has picked up on your fantasy
and is performing for you. And hey, that's not inherently wrong. It's just, let's be mindful of that. Let's not assume that is normative and that this is what sex, quote unquote, should look like. Or what sexual partners, quote unquote, should be like or do. Anyway,
let me know how you go with your vibrator.
Well, I'm just curious to see if they'll let me take it in. I'm keen. I mean, I and again, I don't really care if they see it. It's more if they are going to have a rule around like sexual paraphernalia. And see, to me, I just disagree that a vibrator is even necessarily sexual. Like, I get it's a sex toy, right? But why is masturbation sexual even? As opposed to dopamine inducing or self-soothing or all of the above. And it can be sexual as well, but like, there are 1,000 reasons why people masturbate.
Mm.
Many of which aren't a whole lot to do with like being super horny or like
But
wanting
same
to
with
be in a really
sex.
sexual headspace. Same with sex. Exactly. Yeah. We kind of
What is
assign
sex? What is sexual?
what even is it? God, we're asking the big questions. What is sex? Yeah, true. What is it?
Yeah. I'm not sure. Anyway.
Anyway, so that's the section about me going into hospital.
Which we haven't actually talked about. So
No, I haven't
medication.
really. Yeah, this is why I think put this bit on Patreon, because I haven't really talked in any detail about it all, and that's fine.